are these people?
This guy, um, Joseph, Joseph Biden, Joseph,
Come on, man.
like, he, had a budget that got announced. Colin, you see this? You see this budget?
I did not see this, so per usual, I'm going blind. So
Okay.
I'm curious to see the shit show this is going to be.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Will I laugh though?
Molly Rosenweig over at Left Voice, says Biden's proposed budget is nothing but empty promises. This is Left Voice. These are the
You
opinions
don't
of Molly.
say. You don't.
I know, huh?
How dare you?
But earlier this month, Joe Biden announced his budget proposals with a lot of promises. But the only thing we know he'll deliver is that nothing will fundamentally change. Bravo. Just stop the article there. We're good. Everything we need to know there. Right. We'll dive in a little deeper.
Let's get into the details though.
So, March 9th, day after my birthday, Joe Biden announced his budget plan for fiscal year 2024. Not much of it is likely to pass since there's a slim majority by Republicans in the House, and much of it is in preparation for the 2024 election. He proposed many social programs and tax increases on the wealthy, many things which he didn't even fight for when Democrats controlled both the House and Senate. Biden likely made these proposals because he knows they won't pass.
Okay.
Like, okay, sure. I'm glad we're not the only ones saying it now. He touts the paltry thing he was able to pass and continues to promote his rose-colored outlook and some elements of economic populism, similar to what he pushed at the State of the Union, though with continuing low approval ratings. We can be sure that the many workers and oppressed realize that the rosy picture is far from reality. You fucking think? Like, what? As for making the rich pay their fair share, his proposals include a billionaire minimum tax, which would impose a tax of at least 25% on those with more than 100 million in wealth, as well as an increased corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%.
Nope.
He ain't getting that. Like, that's not something he's getting.
Nope.
Which doesn't even go back to the 35% rate that was in place before 2017. He also proposes raising taxes on foreign earnings for U.S. multinationals and eliminating tax subsidies for oil and gas, increasing the stock buybacks tax, and he wants to close some tax loopholes and raise the Medicare tax to 5% for those earning more than $400,000.
Meanwhile, and depending if we decide to do this as an extra segment, a lot of the pandemic, stuff implemented for Medicare will now be stripped away. I think if it hasn't already by this weekend, I believe they'll be stripped. So, yeah.
So it's also 400,000. So what bracket is that? Isn't that like second to what's the above 400
I know
bracket?
I don't care because that's a bracket that I'll never, not to say never, but
okay. You ain't in that shit. Okay, cool.
No, so I don't need to worry about that.
These tax increases are small, but show that he is speaking to many who are unhappy with today's huge inequalities, and he is responding to the popularity of the idea that the rich are too rich. I love you, but I know you know better. You know who I'm talking. You know.
No, it's not Molly's fault for this.
No, but Molly, you do know better. Like, I feel you.
But again, at least she's talking about this.
Yes.
No other mainstream media. Well, they might, but
right. Like I know. I get you. I know. You don't need that though. Is what I'm saying. You don't need that. These proposed tax increases are meant to counter GOP attacks about the deficit by claiming to reduce the deficit by $3 trillion over 10 years. Do you remember the last time he said stuff like that, Care Bear? Do you remember?
Wait, when is this?
That's the only way you can find room to pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
And to provide a laundry list of social programs. Such programs include restoring the child tax credit, increasing Pell Grants, paid for maternity leave, increasing access to child and elder care, lowering housing costs, making Medicare solvent until the 2050s, and more. It's clear that Biden has to make promises to those who want more social spending and to tax the rich, but despite all those proposals, the only thing we can be sure will pass is Biden's campaign promise that nothing will fundamentally change.
Come on, man.
Anyway, despite referring to himself as the most pro-union president in history, and all of his talk about creating union jobs, he's got one union friend. He's got one friend he's got one. He showed up, but he's got that one. It's like, anyway, and all of his talk about creating union jobs, the capitalist state is nothing but a committee for managing the common affairs of the whole bourgeoisie. And Biden's ultimate goal, like all presidents before him, is to ensure the stability of capitalism and the boss's profits. Biden's recent busting of a potential railroad workers strike is just the latest example of where his priorities really lie. Furthermore, much of his pro-worker rhetoric is America first. Chauvinism, which pits U.S. workers against workers in other countries, using phrasing like bringing jobs back home, buy American, Jack, and leading the world in manufacturing. That's that classic. Republicans use that forever.
Right.
They're straight up dog whistles. This is very important to keep in mind in the context of U.S. imperialism's attempt to contain China's growth and decline of U.S. hegemony. Although we should not be under the illusion that a multipolar world will be a more progressive world for working class and oppressed people, we must also fight the racism, xenophobia, and prejudices against Chinese people that have been sweeping the country, fostered by U.S. imperialist interests. Because his role to manage the capitalist state, Biden is calling for even more fundings for the police to keep communities safe and secure, and a support for training in community policing, even adding 100,000 more cops to the streets. He explicitly says that he doesn't want to defund them. Do I need to say that louder for the people in the back?
No.
The police exist to protect private property and to maintain capitalist order, not to keep communities safe. If the unions that he brags about supporting go out on strike, it'll be the police called in to escort the scabs and break the strike. Biden pays lip service to oppressed communities when it is those same police that terrorize black and brown communities. It's not just local police that he's proud to support. Biden and the Democrats fight for immigrants during election season, yet this budget proposal to hire 350 more Border Patrol agents and more processing assistants at CBP, and ICE, $535 million for border technology, among other things. This is a continuation of the crackdown on immigration, as this recent example and others throughout his presidency show. On the White House fact sheet, he even brags about having secured more resources for border security than any of the presidents who preceded him, which we covered last week with Robert Durden.
Yeah.
Yes, Joe Biden is indeed bragging that he wants to arm and militarize the border more than Donald Trump did. Both Democrats and Republicans understood that capitalists need a hyper-exploitable group of workers to boost their profits, a group that is created by violent border policies. As expected, there are proposals for record military and defense spending. This part of the budget is likely to pass. Given the bipartisan support for U.S. imperialism, see Book of Collin, Chapter 4, Verse 2, he requests raising the discretionary budget authority for the Department of Defense to $842 billion, up to 3.2% for Ukraine, NATO, and European allies. Okay. So he requests more than $6 billion, owing to imperialism's ever-increasing focus on containing China's growth and influence. He aims to, quote, invest in new ways to outcompete China. And advanced American prosperity globally. Proposals include strengthening U.S. role in the Indo-Pacific by investing $2 billion in order to create an international infrastructure fund, $2 billion for a new equity revolving fund for supporting equity investments, and $2 billion investments to strengthen partner economies. How much? What do you think those are?
2 billion investments to strengthen partner economies. I don't know. That would be like
Where's his VP at?
I know. Well,
I mean, for the whole of partner economies. That's what I mean.
right,
He's
but
given $842 billion to NATO and Ukraine.
right. You know, but you mentioned where's his VP at? She was in Africa last week.
Yeah.
But I guess, but
I'm betting
we have
that's
to see.
that's South America and Africa. That's the others. Is
Yeah.
2 billion. So
I think it's just a question of where in Africa.
Yeah.
Specifically, you know, because I'm sure many countries in Africa at this point are just like, fuck you.
So regarding climate change, he touts the Inflation Reduction Act, a bill that actually promotes the expansion of fossil fuel extraction and is a handout to big businesses. His actions against climate change are mostly tax credits and rebates to incentivize green energy production and usage for things like electric vehicles. These are really just
which people can afford anyway, and exploiting places in Africa, which we've also talked about.
Yep. These are really just ways to ensure profits for capitalists in the clean energy sector. To placate the oil and coal bosses, he doesn't forget to mention that we still need oil. Given the U.S. Right, this is them quoting, right? Given that the U.S. military is the planet's biggest polluter, we can be sure that his calls for military spending will worsen the climate crisis. Biden and the Democrats will allow capitalists to continue destroying the planet to fulfill their insatiable need for profits.
Yep, that's in the chat. They don't
Says
think
I'm
you're
not
high enough.
High enough. Yeah. Working on it. Oh. So while trans people, especially trans youth, are under attack from the far right, Biden made no mention of this in his March 9th speech, possibly to appeal to right-leaning voters. The White House website fact sheet makes only trite nods to equity and to making the promise of America real for every American, as well as adding LGBTQIA plus as an afterthought in social program proposals. He didn't mention reproductive rights either. Yes.
Can you pause there? And I just earlier tonight, having a Twitter, I don't want to even call it discussion, but some person, could be a bot or whatever, was like, regarding the AC burner account, whatever, for the record, don't care. But this person was like, oh, I said, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene regarding Ukraine, because really, you know, with Nico House, made that the issue regarding AOC is why are you voting to fund Ukraine? Marjorie Taylor Greene, as lonesome as she is, and we can admit that on this show, at least in rhetoric, is right regarding our support of Ukraine in regards to the money that we're giving them. And this person was just like, how can you say that? You know, like, she is against trans people and all this kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And you just mentioned here, what about Biden? He hasn't said shit about the trans community either. But you don't call him out. It's easy to call out Marjorie Taylor Greene because she is an outright bigot.
Yeah.
You know, but not the president of whom the squad is kowtowing behind, and you've refused to call them out, but you're gonna go after like the easy targets. Like, and the sad thing is, this person was like, "I get that AOC is not good, but it's not her problem. It's the people above her that are the problem." Yet, Sherlock, we know that,
Yeah,
but
but
her
she's not
job was to
fighting
call
them.
these. Right,
Right.
her job was to call them out and fight them.
Yeah, not
You know?
not get their memos and act in lockstep. Like,
Right.
anyway,
So
terrible.
yeah, a little rant, but I just had to say it because this was fresh in my mind. But like, and this person was just like, "Oh, like the squad has done so much for the trans community and all of that kind of stuff." And I'm like, okay, but working for the trans, and again, I have nothing against the LGBTQ plus community at all, you know, but at the same time, I'm like, it doesn't make a difference at the end of the day if we go to war and we're all dead.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if like um minimum wage federally is not being raised, and that affects all of our economic output. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if, you know, we, again, our infrastructure is shit.
Speaking of infrastructure, Biden touted his biggest accomplishments, the American Rescue Plan, and the quote bipartisan, again, see Book of Collin, chapter 4, verse 2, um, the infrastructure law, and the Inflation Reduction Act. So, aimed at serving the capitalist economy and mitigating the most severe consequences of the neoliberal crisis and the pandemic, not solving the underlying conditions that the masses of workers and oppressed experience under capitalism. Yep. I think this last little bit. In the context of inflation, layoffs, and the banking crisis, it's clear the budget won't be implemented. His list of progressive proposals show that many people want more progressive policies and that he needs to speak to those people, yet he ain't going to deliver. It is essential that as workers, we form our own party and not rely on the capitalist Democrats and their empty promises. We need a working class party that fights for socialism and takes up the struggle of the oppressed, that fights for the demands of workers, and the oppressed, that will actually fight the far right, will fight for reproductive rights and the rights of trans people, and that is truly pro-union and pro-worker. I think that's it.
And you had to end on a depressing note.
Yep. You know.
Can we just have like a news episode?
All good stories?
Yeah.
We can try.
I mean, we should do that anyway, like intentionally try and do like some feel good stories every once in a while. But like,
Sure.
yeah, this is
I wish there
just,
was
I
more
mean,
of them. I'd pull them, you know?
I,
Like,
you
yep.
know, but I mean, I said it before and I'll say it many, many, many times. The second half of the year, mark my words, and you can quote me on this, is going to be hell.
Way worser.
Well, yeah, because the public emergency regarding the pandemic is over in a month.
Yep.
So, and things are beginning to kind of go back to normal in terms of pre-pandemic and how shit things were then. And now they're returning to that. And like everything has just been on pause for the last 3 years. And now things are going to be kind of dialed back into things as they were prior to March 2020. And it's going to put a hurting on a lot of people still, if not more so. You know, so again, I just kind of fear that there's going to be a lot of hurt and pain from the working class the second half of this year. And, you know, Joe Biden's not going to care. Trump is not going to care. Anyone who's running for president is not going to care. They'll give lip service as to that. But, you know, but that's what I'm terrified about, is there's going to be more despair in our country. You know, and we're seeing what's happening in France. You know, Paris is literally burning right now. And it's like, when is that going to happen here? You know, like I don't know, but yeah, but I think we should at least, so people in the chat, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting us and loving us and hitting us with the likes and the shares and the subscriptions to this channel network. But if you got some stories for us that you want us to talk about, especially if they're feel-good ones, send them to us. Because, as I said, it's kind of depressing, like, to end like this.
You can use hashtag INN News, capital INN, lowercase news. If you want, if y'all want to.